Since Be'er Miriam is for ladies, and a few people ask me why I'm not teaching the men, so I said because it's designated for the ladies, but we will slowly start touching and learning about all the topics that were misunderstood or misinterpreted or not explained the right way regarding to women. Why they don't go up to the Torah, why they don't put tefillin on, why the blessing says Shelo asa nisha. There's very good, straight to the point explanation that actually shows that the Torah is more favorable to the woman and not to the man. So Be'ezrat Hashem will get to that at the right time. Unfortunately, in many places, that's the way they present the Torah is the opposite, and then it causes ladies that are very sensitive not to like what they hear, and then they develop all sorts of ideas that they either have to do certain things, like put tefillin on or whatever, or go up to the Torah, and then people are trying to reform it and try to make it equal between the women have to do what the men are doing. The Torah was very clear what is the obligations of the man, what are the obligations of the woman. Each one got their part, and you have to do your part. You can't start mixing things around. We have a designer to the world. We can't come and redesign the world. It's not in our hands. Tov. So, since we talked about Kriyat Shema Lamita before, and it has to do with Teshuvah, and B'Hashgacha Pratit, Eliza asked something about Teshuvah, so I want to just talk a little bit about the concept of Teshuvah, because we will have a lot of classes about how to do Teshuvah, because Baruch Hashem, I think that the majority of us are Baalei Teshuvah here, and even if you were born into a religious family, you still are Baal Teshuvah, and you still need to do Teshuvah, but many people throughout their life, they live their life wherever they live, and one day Hashem does kindness and chesed with them, and pitom they're drawn to the Torah, and somehow they find themselves doing Teshuvah. And in most cases, a person will get drawn to the religion for whatever reason. Something will ignite that spark, something will draw them closer. And then in most cases, if they're lucky, if it's a man, he will go to yeshiva. If it's a woman, she'll go to a seminary. And Baruch Hashem, for many years, an older woman, when wanted to do Teshuvah, had nowhere to go. So now they come to Be'er Miriam. But there's not enough guidance out there for Baalei Teshuvah. And in most cases, it's like you're being thrown into the water and okay, now you swim by yourself. And a lot of things are not explained the right way. A lot of the things are not broken down into a way that a person does hers Teshuvah in a system. And the result from that is either people, they're finding a very hard time to do their Teshuvah, or they, chas v'shalom, in many cases, they go back to where they came from. No, I'm good, today. And very few people really educate what's even the concept of Teshuvah. How do I have to do it? How long do I have to do Teshuvah? Do I do Teshuvah once and then I'm done with it? Or do I have to go over and over? And how do I know my Teshuvah was accepted? And what is Teshuvah? It's not a simple process. And like in anything in life, if you don't have a mentor or a guide or some type of guidance or some type of a program, then you're never going to be able to do that. And people think that, doing Teshuvah, okay, so I'm going to stop stealing, I'm going to stop lying, I'm going to eat kosher, I'll keep Shabbat to what I know, I'll do whatever I know, and that's it, I did my Teshuvah. That works very well from this point and on, but you're forgetting the back part. And it is true that when you do Teshuvah, the main part of the Teshuvah is not doing the sin anymore. That's the main part, but Teshuvah is broken into four parts. First, you have to not do the sin anymore. Then you have to repent. Then you have to confess, to do vidui. Then you have to have charata. You have to have remorse. Then you have to do Kabbalah Latid, accepting for the future, not to do it ever again. But then there's one component that is a little bit missed, is the tikkun that I have to do for all the things that I missed before. I left the debt. So if it's not done the right way, then a person is schlepping behind baggage that, like the easiest analogy to give is, in America when somebody gets married, they tie tins to the car, and the car is driving off, and it's carrying all the tins behind it, and it's making all the dust and the mess. So if I do teshuvah and I still left things behind, that I'm dragging with me, I'm schlepping behind me a lot of tins of dirt. And teshuvah has to be done in a very, in Hebrew they say b'tzorah yesodit. In English you will say in a very, how would you say b'tzorah yesodit? Not systematic, but it has to be done very thoroughly. Is that the right way to say? Not consistent, thoroughly. It has to be cleaned very well. It's almost like doing an operation. And, excuse me? No, I think thoroughly is a good word. A way to explain it is almost like you do an operation. If chas v'shalom, the doctor would leave something inside, which they do, then you have to reoperate it and take it out. Forget about now the infection that it will do and the complication that it will do. But when a surgeon does an operation, everything has to be exactly precise. It has to be cleaned the right way. It has to be dealt the right way. That chas v'shalom should not be complications, should not be infections. So the same thing with teshuvah. Teshuvah is not a simple process that you say, okay, let me put on a black suit, and I'm going to grow a beard and put a yarmulke on, and that's it. I'll pray 3 times a day and I'm good to go. Now that's one part of the teshuvah. And the main part of the teshuvah that is missed is the tikkun that I have to do for what I messed up in the past. And a lot of people, whether it's misconception or misguided, they think, okay, if I stop doing everything, then I'm good to go. So that's one very important thing in the process of the teshuvah that we'll talk about it a little bit today, is what I left behind. Because I can't I can't have any problems left in my past. Looking into the future, that's a completely different thing. And even any Baal Teshuvah will tell you, yeah, I'm a Baal Teshuvah 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Yeah, when you start, you go full force and you're particular with every little thing. And then after 5 years, 10 years, it starts wearing off and you're not so particular, and then you find yourself suddenly going back a few steps. And sometimes you say, wow, 5 years ago I was a little bit more strict with the kosher, and I was a little bit more strict with the family purity, and I was strict here and strict there. I'm finding some leniencies. And that's pretty natural, because a person comes in with a lot of excitement, and not only that, you're not sure about every little thing, and not only that, a lot of people, they're in the beginning, there's the element of fear, and I'm afraid to do this, I'm afraid to do that. After 10 years of doing teshuvah, you're like, okay, I'm not so afraid. Now I don't see that things really happen, and people, they get off guard. And things that I'm referring to is strictness with kosher, strictness with Shabbat rules, strictness in anything that has to do with family purity, and many other things that in the beginning you're very, very uptight. And after 20 years or 5 years, 10 years, each one is different. Then you're like, okay, I can be a little bit more relaxed. You get into it, so to say. So there's 2 ways and of course I'm talking about somebody who's Baal Teshuvah a couple of years, not say 3 months, that it's still exciting. I'm talking when it's already becoming part of my life. Some people are Baal Teshuvah already for 30 years. Some people are more religious in their life than they're not religious. I mean, I did Teshuvah when I was 26. I have more years of being secular than being religious, even though most of the years were childhood. But still, if you're looking at quantity of my life, the majority of my life I wasn't religious. So even though it's not the right way of looking at it, but the point is that there are 2 ways to look at my teshuvah process. Is from here forward, and from here backwards. And from here forward, then I have to grow and ascend. That's the basics. That's the basic rule, that I constantly have to be in a motion of growing and ascending and growing higher. But then I have to take into consideration a very big part of my teshuvah is if I really did teshuvah. And the main part of teshuvah is not the forward, is the backwards. Because the concept of Teshuvah, if you're looking at the word Teshuvah, if you break it into two, the first part will be Tashuv, and the last part will be the Hey. So the point is that when I chas v'shalom do a sin, then I take the Hey of the word of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the name of Hashem, and this is the last Hey because we have two Heys in the word of Hashem. The first one is called Hey Ila'ah, and the second one is called Hey Tata'ah, which doesn't matter right now what that means. But when I do a certain sin, then I take the last Hey of the word of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and I put it into the Klippah. That's basically what I do. Now when I do Teshuvah, then I have to take the Hey out of it. I have to take the Hey of the name of Hashem out of the Klippah, out of the husk, and put it back to the name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. That's why when I do Teshuvah, I do the action of Tashuv, bring back. What am I bringing back? The letter Hey. I'm pulling out the Hey out of the Klippah, out of Galut, out of exile. Because I am a Chelek Elokah, I'm a piece of Hashem, and when I go against what the Torah told me to do something, then I take a piece of Hashem and I put it in exile. As they say that the Bnei Israel galu le'edom v'shchina imahem. And when we go out to exile, and the Shechina goes into exile with us. Because the Shechina, each and every one of us has a piece of the Shechina. So part of the Teshuvah is first of all bringing back, fixing what I did in the past. Now at this point it doesn't really matter if I did something deliberately, knowingly, intentionally, by mistake. That has nothing to do with it right now. Because a lot of the things that we do, we are in a concept of what's called Tinok Shenishba. Tinok Shenishba is a baby that was captured between the nations, and a baby that was captured between the nations has no obligation, so to say. He's not obligated to do anything because he doesn't know anything. He was like forced to do that. So the problem is that a lot of people, they flag, oh, I'm a Tinok Shenishba, I didn't know. Okay, that might work for many things, but not for everything. Second of all, even if I am a Tinok Shenishba, a baby that was captured between the nations, I still have responsibility to what belongs to me. And one way of explaining it, which is not the right example, but it will clarify the concept, is if I have a credit card and somebody steals my credit card and goes and buys stuff on my credit card, then I didn't do anything. That person stole my card. I didn't do that. But the point is that money was taken out of my account. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything. Now, in our society, then you have insurance in your credit card and they give you back the money. But kind of to paint the idea that even if something was stolen from me, I still set the consequences. The money was taken from me. So even if I did a sin without knowing, I didn't know it's a sin, it is a sin, it's not a sin, it doesn't matter. There is some type of a deficiency, there's some type of a blemish. And I have to take responsibility whether I agree with it or not, because it belongs to me. Now some things has nothing to do with me at all. But for example, in my personal story, when I was taken to the heavenly court, so and they showed me my entire life, from the day I was born till that day, and they showed me every little thing that I did. Now I could easily said, you know what, I'm a Tinok Shenishba, I'm a baby that was captured between the nations, I was born to a secular family, it wasn't my fault. So they already told me it in such a way that, first of all, what they showed me is everything that has to do between Adam lechavero, between a person to another person. They didn't show me that I didn't put tefillin on, or ripping letters on Shabbat, or things that no chance that I would know. But they told me, listen, you know, between one person to the other, you don't need the Torah to tell you not to steal, and you don't need the Torah to tell you not to cheat. It's just common sense. Grab now any individual, go to any country in the world, and pick up a person from the market and tell him, is that normal to steal? They'll tell you, no, it's not normal to steal. It's not nice to cheat. It's not nice to commit adultery. It's common sense. You don't need the Torah for that. So in my specific case, they told me, listen, you don't pretend that you didn't know. You don't need to be a religious person to know that it's not nice to cheat or to lie or to humiliate somebody or to go behind somebody's back and do something. Besides the fact that in many cases we do know, we just choose to ignore. That's a whole different thing. That we know a lot of things that we're not allowed to do, but we kind of, I close one eye, I ignore the fact. So when I do tshuva, I have to be 100% honest. I can't round corners and say, oh, that I didn't know, that has nothing to do with me, that was his fault, here I was pressured. When you're doing tshuva, you have to be 100% honest with yourself, because the tshuva is the opportunity that the Kadosh Baruch Hu gives you to fix something that you messed up. That's how much love Hashem has for us, because technically, it says, our sages say, Bechol yom adam nidon min hashamayim. Every day a person is being judged by the heavenly court. Right now, there's a heavenly court designated for me, and a heavenly court designated for each and every one of you. Thousands of angels, judges are sitting looking at your movie. There's cameras everywhere in the universe, and every move that you do, there's a heavenly court judging you in the same moment. And once they judge you, the decree goes to a heavenly court that is supreme to that. That's why when we pray, my prayers go to the first Beit Din. They analyze my prayer. Whatever is schmutz, they send back. Whatever is good, then they elevate it to the heavenly court that is above that. And then it goes one court to another court to another court till it comes to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So from my 100% of my prayer, could be that only 2% actually reach the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because they're not going to take to the Kadosh Baruch Hu my prayer that while I was texting in the middle of the prayer. And you might not do that, but go to a shul and you'll see that half the men are texting while they're praying. Or talking, or business, or anything. Or, sometimes you pray, you have all these thoughts. You're not concentrating on what you're praying. So the heavenly court is like sifting. No, this we can't take to the master of the universe. It's not befitting. So every second of my life, there's a heavenly court looking at me and judging me what's going on. And if I now did something good, then I get my credit points. If chas v'shalom I did something bad, then I'm being judged accordingly. And chas v'shalom, a person can be judged to death 50 times a day. That's what's called a death by the heavenly court, mita b'dei shamayim, and certain sins that one does, that's the decree right now. Chas v'shalom, a person have a decree on him, a gzar din. And of course he can do teshuvah and change it. But constantly there's a judgment can go against me. And the thing is that when I do teshuvah, right now it doesn't really matter if I did it on purpose or not, because there is different weight to when I do it on purpose. This is what's called bemezid, and there's also when I did it doing it on purpose. This is beshogeg. So for example, one of the most severest actions that can cause by a sin is called karet. There are 36 acts in the Torah, that the 34 are prohibitions and 2 are positive mitzvot, that if chas v'shalom a person does that, the consequence is karet. Karet means to be chopped off. Lichrot. And we know, based on the teachings of the Zohar, that from my soul to Hashem, there's like a rope, a spiritual rope. And the same way that a physical rope is built from many thin strings, so the spiritual rope is built from 620 strings, corresponding to 620 mitzvot that we have. 613 from the Torah and 7 from the sages. If I'm a God-fearing person and I follow the Torah 100%, then all my strings are connected to their source. I have 100% pure connection between me and the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But if chas v'shalom I did now one sin, then I cut one string. And then I did another sin, I cut another one. And then I did another 20 and 30 and 40, and I cut these strings. And it's not necessarily a prohibition. It can be a positive mitzvah that I didn't do. Because I have 248 positive mitzvot. If I didn't bench, if I didn't do a certain action, that's also cutting one of these strings. But chas v'shalom, a person can do one action, and with one action cuts the entire rope. If a person eats a crumb this big of bread on Pesach, the whole rope gets cut off. This is called karet. V'nichreta hanefesh ha'im me'ameah. So, in order for a person to be under the category of karet, it has to be memezid, has to be on purpose. If a person not knowingly did something that is under the category of karet, then there's no real karet. So there is a difference between deliberately and on by mistake, or not intentionally, or not knowingly. I mean, I can lean on the wall on Shabbat and by mistake turn the light off. So this is not going to be mitah b'dei shamayim, this is not going to be by mistake. But even if I did it by mistake, it means that I did not have enough zchut to stop me from doing that. Because how many times you went out of the bathroom on Shabbat and your hand went like that and stopped 2 centimeters before the switch? Why? Because a little angel came and pushed your hand. Why? Because you have enough zchut. You did enough Torah and mitzvot that during the week that they're not going to allow you to sin even. They're going to push your hand. You're going to come and remember not to do something. And sometimes by mistake. How many times you by mistake? You turn the light off. Or you do something. Why? Because unfortunately, I probably did something throughout the week that did not allow me to have this spiritual protection, and by mistake I did a sin. And even according to halacha, if I desecrated Shabbat by mistake, b'shogeg, if we would have now Beit HaMikdash, I would still have to bring a korban, because I did some type of blemish. So we learn from that even if I do things by mistake, there is a blemish. So I'm not talking right now about the difference between doing it on purpose or by mistake. This is not the topic of the class. And there is a difference between when I do something b'mezid on purpose and when I do it by mistake. I want to right now, not looking for who's guilty. That's not the problem. It's looking for who's at fault. I'm looking to fix the problem. Sometimes you see 2 people arguing. It's not about to find out who's right now. Let's just stop the argument. When my kids fight, they want me to be the judge. He started, he said. I'm not looking to who's guilty. Let's stop the argument. Let's bring peace first. It doesn't matter who's wrong right now. So in my Teshuvah process, it doesn't matter right now if I did it on purpose or not, or if I'm wrong or not. The problem is that right now there's a blemish. I need to fix it. And right now I don't need to concentrate if I did it on purpose or not, if I knew it, I don't know. That's not the point. The point is that I have to now deal with the baggage that I created 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Just a couple of days ago, one of our students, he contacted me, and I'm sure he's going to watch this video and smile. And he told me that in his past, he did some unwanted things, such as stealing and robbing. And he was like, how do I fix that? It was 20 years ago. How do I fix something that I did 20 years ago? I stole something 20 years ago. How do I fix that? Okay, I did Teshuvah, I'm not stealing anymore. That's it. I did my Teshuvah. I'm not going to steal anymore. I'm never stealing anymore again. But 20 years ago, I did a sin. But the fact that I'm not stealing anymore, that fixed the problem? No. I'm still carrying baggage from 20 years ago. And there's ways to fix everything, and not only these ways. You have to fix it. Because if not, you're going to pass through your life. If chas v'shalom, you have to leave this world before Mashiach comes, then you're going to be called to the heavenly court, and they're going to tell you, in 20 years ago, you stole $100, you didn't pay it back. So doing Teshuvah is, first of all, you have to start digging into your past. And you have to start slowly going and saying, wait, maybe I left something, an open door. When my wife did Teshuvah, she called people from her school to apologize. She called a girl that in 3rd or 4th grade, she used to bully her. She was already in her late 20s. She called and told her, remember me from 20 years ago? I called to apologize because I knew I was real mean to you in 3rd or 4th grade, whatever it was. And that girl remembered her. And she was like, oh, I hated you. You made my life miserable. So when I did Teshuvah, I looked up people that I owed them money from 10, 15 years ago. I would find people and be like, hey, I owe you $200. Here's money. People would be like shocked. They couldn't understand. What? So the point is that you want to go and fix all these things. And this is one example out of many. And the reason why you want to fix these things is because exactly what I said before in the class we had about Kriyat Shema L'Amitah is that I gave the analogy of the chunt, the pot of chunt that you clean on Motzei Shabbat. When you do the first initial clean, you get all the junk out. But then you're left with all the schmutz that is stuck to the walls of the pot. and you have to start scraping it and removing it and cleaning it. And if you don't, then you deal with all these things later on in life. And it can come back in an emotional problem, it can come back in a financial problem, it can come back in a physical problem. And when you're looking on the surface, you're saying, hey, in the last couple of months I didn't do anything. Because our sages teach us, a person that has a suffering, hardship, that has to lefashfesh b'ma'asav, has to look through his actions. Because if I'm getting some type of a message from the heavens, it's a warning light. If I drive now in my car and I'm running out of gas, then the light will turn on. And this is not a recommendation, it's a warning. It tells me, you're going to continue driving, you're going to run out of gas. So Hashem is sending me these messages all the time. And if I'm aware, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a warning, let me see. Now if I go through my actions and I see everything's fine, then could be that it can be a test, can be just just to test if I'm paying attention. But sometimes it says, wait a minute, like a symptom in my body. If something repeats in my body, it means that something's wrong. And the problem in our generation, a person has a headache, he takes a pill. The headache comes back, takes again a pill. The headache's returned, takes another pill. This is the wrong way, because the pill, they numb the pain. They don't do any help. The headache comes to tell you something's wrong in the system. You're either dehydrated, or maybe you're undernourished, or you're not eating enough, or whatever. Something's wrong that you're getting a headache all day long. So taking a pill, that's just numbing the problem. It's not solving the problem. So if I get a certain rash on my hand, you know what you do in our days of age? You go to the doctor, he gives you a cream, you put the cream on the rash, and the rash disappears, and you think the doctor has saved the day. But basically what the doctor did is he pushed the toxins back into the body, so the toxins are trying to come out of the body somehow. So it couldn't come out of your urine, it couldn't come out of your saliva or your sweat, or any other way that the body is exporting toxins, so it comes out in a rash. But so by you putting on the cream, the rash disappeared. So you now covered the exit where the toxins can come out, so it's coming back into the body. You didn't do anything. That's the worst thing to do, is to rub a cream on a rash. The rash comes to tell you your body is trying to get rid of toxins, and it's not able to do that. Go find what it is, and then you get rid of it in a different way. So the body, when it comes with a symptom, it's to tell you something's wrong. Unfortunately, in our day, the medicine, has failed in many different areas, because it doesn't really help. It just numbs the problem. Same with all sorts of emotional and mental problems. The person goes to the doctor and tells him, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm whatever, I have ADD, here, take a pill. The pill numbs the system, so suddenly the person is sitting like this. So of course you're not depressed anymore, because you're numb. It doesn't solve the problem. So 90% of the world is medicated on all sorts of things, because I have this problem, take a pill. I have that problem, take a pill. So the doctors know how to numb problems, they don't know how to solve problems. Because if they would know how to solve problems, there wouldn't be problems. Obviously doctors don't know how to get rid of blood pressure, of low blood pressure, and they give you pills. So the pills, what they do, they dilute the blood. That's what they do. But they don't solve the problem. So you're hooked on the pill. So you have to take pills for the rest of your life. Because I have high or low blood pressure. But they didn't solve the problem. If they would solve the problem, I wouldn't have to go back to the doctor or to consume the pill twice a day. So the problem is that in our generation, they just know how to numb things. Very small percentages that actually give you a solution. So that's kind of the same idea with Teshuvah. Is that I numb certain things. I have a certain symptom, something comes up. This is the natural way of Hashem to tell me, listen, you have to correct something. You've made a damage. Doesn't matter right now if it's your fault or not. This is not what we're talking about. There is a damage. 20 years ago I made a certain damage, I still owe that debt. When I was a little kid, I took a ball and I kicked it to my neighbor's house, and they had this huge window like this, much bigger, and the ball smashed the window. Now I was a little kid, I was afraid, so I ran away. And of course they came with the ball, is this yours? I'm like, no. So the story was that I was caught, that I broke the window, so my father had to pay for the window, of course. And then I had to work to pay for the window. So my father wanted to teach me a lesson that you do a damage, you take responsibility. And I was a little boy and I was crying. It wasn't my fault. I just kicked the ball. It's gravity that took the ball to the neighbor's window. So my father told me it's nothing to do if it's your fault or not. You did damage, take responsibility, so you don't have money now, I'll pay for the window, now you have to work and you have to pay for the damage. So it's not about being upset. My father was not upset at me, the neighbor was not upset. It was about to take responsibility for something that I damaged and I have to fix it. Now imagine I wouldn't fix that. I would owe, whether it's my father or the neighbor, money for the damage that I did. That's not fair, that's not nice. So if I did a damage 20 years ago, I stole something, I hurt somebody's feelings, I did something, I did a damage, Hashem tells me just go and fix it. That's the right thing to do. So Hashem sends us all these messages in our life and He tells me just do a fix. That's what we spoke about before, the tikkun, to fix something. Hashem says no problem, I'm not upset. I'm not now chas v'shalom telling you what Hashem is or not. I'm not telling you if Hashem is upset or not. It's not my place to tell you. Some people come and tell you, oh, if you do this, Hashem is upset at you. Nobody has the right to come and talk for Hashem. Neither one of us is the diplomats of the Kadosh Baruch Hu to tell to anyone what Hashem is thinking. So that's already the wrong attitude to come and say, Hashem is upset at you. So the point is that Hashem is not necessarily upset, but Hashem wants you to fix something. And He comes and tells you, listen, you did a mistake, fix it. So it will come and manifest into my life in many different ways to arouse the knowledge, the awareness that, wait a minute, maybe I did something wrong. And my entire life I have to do teshuvah. Now, a lot of people say at some point, okay, I did teshuvah for everything. The point is that you never know when you're done with your teshuvah. And one wants to take into consideration that when you're already in the stage of not cleaning the major dirt of the pot, when you start scrubbing and you have to go into these little nooks to start getting into the dirt, that's a much later stage in your teshuvah. You're saying, maybe I did something. Now, how do I know what to fix? So many years passed away, or I can't find every individual that I owe money. 30 years ago I stole from somebody money. You think I remember? I don't even remember how much I stole. I don't even know where to start fixing. I don't know what to do. How would I do teshuvah? Now you mentioned before that I have to kick myself in the head for that. It's not about kicking yourself in your head for anything. The kicking yourself in the head, that's the first part of the teshuvah. Once you stop doing the bad thing, that's when the kicking in your head has to stop too. Now you have to be like, okay, how am I fixing it? I already had the kicking yourself in your head, that's the regret that you feel. But then you're saying, okay, now how am I fixing it? I have to fix now the damage that I did.